firearm concealed. Governor Wolf vetoed the legislation. As governor, would you sign constitutional carry legislation? Jason.
I am pro-Second Amendment, and I am definitely pro-Constitution. And we must sign constitutional carry. Additionally, we must have preemption. We cannot have every local municipality having a different gun law. These are two key things. We have to have the same gun laws throughout Pennsylvania.
Permit to enforce our own constitutional rights. I'm a proud life member of the NRA. I'm proud to have the support of the past president of the NRA. But you know, I noticed some of my friends brought some props. And so I brought something for show and tell as well. This is my nearly 100-year-old mother. So you know I was raised right. You know she's going to hold me accountable.
I will continue to support the Second Amendment and the right to carry, but also, as a leader, I will work to be able to address some of the social imperatives, risk factors that lead to crimes that cause us to attribute them to guns. Guns are innocent. We should support our Second Amendment, as I do. Thank you.
Melissa Hart.
Open. So if I want to carry my nice Ruger revolver out in the open, I don't need a permit. But all of these communities, like where I live, require me that if I want to put it in my purse for protection, I have to get a permit. Does any of that make any sense? Of course it doesn't. We're protected under the Second Amendment to actually have a firearm to protect ourselves, to use as we see fit as far as our families, our businesses. When I was in Washington, D.C., we actually got a majority of the House to support the ability of a business owner in Washington, D.C. to keep a firearm and use it to protect their family and their business. So the people want to keep their constitutional permission, and we need to encourage that and certainly support the legislation.
Bill McSwain.
Well, I think I probably approach this from a little bit of a unique perspective. As a younger man, I served as a Marine infantry officer and scout sniper platoon commander. So I think it's fair to say I probably know more about weapons and self-defense than anybody up here. But I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Law-abiding citizens have the constitutional right to defend themselves and their families, and that right is every bit as important as any other right in the Bill of Rights. But I'm also a prosecutor, and I know that strengthening the gun rights of law-abiding citizens actually reduces crime. That's why we often see the highest rates of crime in those areas with the strictest gun control laws. And we also see the lowest rates of crime in those areas with the strongest Second Amendment protections. So to answer the question, I absolutely support constitutional carry. What Marine sniper wouldn't?
That's time.
Guy Ciarrocchi.
The answer is yes. The Second Amendment counts like all the others. I say it's like the Ten Commandments. They come as a full set. You don't get to pick and choose. We know that the reality is that many of the attacks on the Second Amendment are really a proxy fight by the left to attack our values and to grow the control of government. As a former prosecutor, me too. As a former prosecutor, we need to fight crime and prosecute criminals. We need to attack and fight back against those who commit violent crimes. That's the solution. Any attempt to use attacks on the Second Amendment to do that, or to take guns away from innocent citizens and law-abiding citizens, is politically motivated, not focused on crime. We need to support that legislation and protect ourselves from violent criminals.
Dave White.
I would absolutely sign it. I'd sign it day one if it came onto my desk on that quickly. Everyone has a right to defend themselves, their home, their families. And when you're asked at visiting, shopping, on the streets, you have a right to defend yourself there as well, however you want to defend yourself. Our Second Amendment rights spell that out. I don't believe you need a constitutional carry because I think it says it in our Constitution. I believe it speaks to it loud and clear. Unfortunately, we have a Supreme Court in Pennsylvania that probably doesn't read the Constitution the way I do, and that's unfortunate. So I would sign that day one to make sure you can carry your weapon, your gun, and you can have constitutional carry day one in the Dave White administration.
John Ventry.
When the state senators were up here, you called it an assault rifle. That's not what it's called. Okay, that's what the left calls it. Supreme Court ruled an AR is no different than a handgun. It fires at exactly the same speed. I was watching Shane the other night, the great Alan Ladd movie. When he was talking to the kid, he said a gun is like any other tool that you have on your farm. It's the man that handles it that is the problem, not the weapon. The Constitution says we should make no law against firearms. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA and FOAC, Firearm Owners Against Crime. I will bring Chip Gallo and Kim Stauffer, if he's healthy, he's not right now, to Harrisburg.
15 seconds.
And we'll wipe out every law. This is something the radical left uses. Normally I carry, I didn't today, so I stand on the Second Amendment. Just look at Australia and the United Kingdom. They're a mess because they don't have guns.
Okay. Just so you all know, I've got about 2 more questions here, both from legislators, and then I want to give you time to sum up your closing statements. So this is yet another question from Representative Rob Kaufman. It's a gun control question. He says, when it comes to pandemic restrictions, many in the Republican Party urge for local decision-making. But for the Second Amendment, current state law requires firearm restrictions to be legislated at the state level. Do you think local gun restrictions should be preempted and handled only at the state level? And I'll start with you, Jason.
Yeah, I already answered this at my last. We cannot have different gun laws throughout the Commonwealth. We have to have one basic law that goes through. You can only imagine driving down the road. Every different municipality you would go to, there would be a new law. It would be impossible. And the Democrats' use of their local municipalities and cities to have their own gun laws is not only a violation of the Second Amendment, but it is an idiotic use of public policy power. So I would certainly be against preemption.
He wrote this before he heard you. Charlie Giroux.
Yet I want to applaud Representative Kaufman for helping to lead the fight on this because it is idiotic. And the problem has been that the left has done on a variety of different subjects. Local government laws, they've tried to do it with natural gas. They've tried to do it with firearms. They've tried to do it with all of the things that we find so vitally important and more important as constitutional rights. And the way to preserve and protect our state constitution and our federal constitution is through allowing no preemption by local governments of these types of laws. They make no sense, they're bad policy, and they're gotcha situations, because you pass from one municipality into another, and all of a sudden, you've got a different set of laws,
15 seconds.
and they can prosecute you. That's not right.
Dr. Zama.
I would support uniformity of our laws, and I believe and I do agree with my colleagues, because it just doesn't make any logical sense.
Melissa Hart.
Oh, sorry. When I was a state senator, we actually had this come before us. City of Philadelphia was trying, of course, to limit people's gun rights. We actually didn't have trouble at all maintaining a majority to vote that down. I still stand in that position. I think it's unreasonable and ridiculous to create a patchwork of gun laws across the state. It's also impractical. But the other issue here is just the question of what's the problem that you're trying to solve? I'm a practical problem solver, but there has to be a problem before you waste the legislature's time trying to solve it, and there is no problem here.
Bill McSwain.
I do believe that local gun restrictions should be preempted. Turning the localities loose to come up with their own gun restrictions would only punish lawful gun owners. And it would also be counterproductive, okay? It just wouldn't work. Okay, gun control does not reduce violent crime. And gun control is always the left's excuse or their rationale for reducing violent crime, and it doesn't work. From my experience as a prosecutor, I know that what reduces violent crime is aggressive prosecution of the existing criminal laws. Deterrence, accountability, those are the things that work. And you know, I watched the Senate debate before this, and one of the things that one of the candidates said stuck with me. He said, we need to end the lockdowns and we need to start the lockups. And I agree.
Guy Sarucci.
I agree with all of my colleagues and what they said. My position is identical. But there's a bigger problem. The bigger problem we're facing right now is not the fact that Philadelphia wants to pass its own set of laws to try and limit constitutional rights. The problem is that Philadelphia has decided not to prosecute crime. The reality is that that's something we're all paying for. The reality is that the district attorney of Philadelphia basically stopped prosecuting crime. The legislature in Harrisburg tried to fix it. They said that the attorney general, Josh Shapiro, could go into Philadelphia and prosecute violent crimes. If the Philadelphia DA wouldn't do it, then the attorney general would. As I said earlier, the next violent crime that Josh Shapiro prosecutes in Philadelphia will be his first. He's failed. As governor, I'm going to tell Josh Shapiro to do his job. If he won't, I'll work with the legislature and we'll put in a special prosecutor. Not only should cities not have their own set of laws to take away constitutional rights, but they can't let crime run rampant either.
Dave White.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everyone else. There's no way that that would be feasible. It'd be similar to from Pennsylvania going to New Jersey. If you have a permit in Pennsylvania, you cross over to New Jersey, and you don't have a permit, you go to jail for 5 years. That's what happens in New Jersey. That's what would happen in Pennsylvania. So absolutely, the state laws, especially protecting the Second Amendment, will be done from the state, not at a local level.
John Ventry.
Power is not given to the federal government, goes to the state. That's why you see Florida and Texas being so successful fighting Joe Biden. We make no laws against guns. I said that before. Problem is our Supreme Court is afraid right now because they think they're going to pack the court. What we need is universal carry. I mean, my driver's license is good anywhere in the country. My gun, my carry permit, which I shouldn't really need, should be good everywhere. I'm petrified. I know you can't stop in Maryland. I would never bring my gun to New York or New Jersey, where I lived for 37 years. How many of you watch Yellowstone? Watch that? John Dutton times 10.
All right. This is the last question. It's from Representative Kathy Rapp, chair of the Health and Pro-Life Caucus. She writes, the Abortion Control Act in Pennsylvania allows the case before the U.S. Supreme Court rolls back legal abortions from Mississippi to 15 weeks. Would you sign a bill limiting abortion to 15 weeks or the detection of a heartbeat or earlier? Should state or taxpayer funds be used for fetal experimentation, and should they be used for things like NIH grants, et cetera?
1 minute.
I am pro-life, and that means I'm a God-fearing person, and I have, with my family, we go to church, and pro-life is a very important part of who I am. And the Dobbs case that's in front of the Supreme Court, I predict, will change Roe v. Wade, and it will move back the period of time in which you can have an abortion. And I can promise everyone in Pennsylvania that if I get a piece of legislation that is constitutional and goes back to the limit that Dobbs and the Supreme Court says, I promise you, I will sign that pro-life legislation, and we will move it back as far as we can, as constitutionally allowed, because I am a constitutionalist. And the other thing I promise you, at no time while I'm governor will taxpayer dollars ever be used to help fund an abortion. Thank you.
Charlie Giroux.
The quick and short answer is absolutely yes, I would. And I think it's very, very important that Kathy Rapp has done what she's done to fight back against the agenda of the left, where Tom Wolf is simply vetoing every responsible piece of legislation that's put before them. They say they want to make abortion safe, legal, and rare. That's just simply not the case. Josh Shapiro says that abortion is health care. That's how radical his agenda truly is. In a few days, I'll be boarding a bus to go to the March for Life. I think it's my 31st. You can say you're pro-life. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. As an adopted child, I can tell you how passionately pro-life I am. And one other thing that has come before the legislature in terms of health care that I think is worth mentioning, and our state Senate friends that aren't here have taken a beating tonight, but I want to say this. I would not have voted to confirm Rachel Levine as our Secretary of Health.
Dr. Zama.
I agree with my colleague here. As I've often said, if you set low standards, expect poor outcomes. But most importantly, all life is precious and must be protected and cherished by everyone. And I know the abortion issue is a very contentious issue, but it shouldn't be. It's not a partisan issue. It's not Democratic or Republican. It's about human life. Human life begins the moment the sperm meets the egg. And therefore, I am tired of people compromising and talking about heartbeats. Life is a continuum. From the moment the egg meets the sperm, life begins, and it continues through teenage years to adulthood. Therefore, abortion is tantamount on murder of a human being. That's plain logic. And also, we must stop compromising. Years ago,
That's time.
black men were considered, black men and women, 60% of human, and we accepted it. Why do we accept a heartbeat?
That's time.
Melissa Hart.
Thank you for that, Doctor. I agree with you. My record from time I've served in public life is clear. I am pro-life. I would sign more abortion restrictions. My ultimate goal would be to have us eliminate abortion as an option. The courts keep standing in the way, but it looks like we might have a chance to move pretty significantly in the right direction soon. Part of the culture of life is also looking at the mother's life. And I believe that as governor, I think it's important, one of my priorities would be that we also invest in pregnancy care centers.
15 seconds.
That we make sure that we're not just saying that the baby is the only important life. Yes, the baby is a very important life, but the mother is too, and we need to support families.
Bill McSwain.
I'm a family man with 4 children. I am pro-life. I will have a pro-life administration where pro-life voices will have prominent seats at the table. I will sign legislation that protects life. And I believe that Roe v. Wade will be overturned by the Supreme Court this year. And you don't even have to be pro-life to think that's the right decision. You just have to be pro-Constitution, because Roe v. Wade is not grounded in the Constitution. I think we should also encourage adoption as an alternative to abortion. Everybody knows couples who want to have children, who want to have a family, but for various reasons they can't have biological children. So that's very important that we encourage adoption. And I would sign any law that is constitutional, that comes to me as part of the democratic process after debate in the legislature. It is not my job, it would not be my job as governor to be a king who thwarts the will of the people. It would be my job to promote the will of the people, which is exactly what I would do.
Guy Sorochi.
Life begins at conception. As I stated earlier, my first March for Life was 1997. Not quite as many as Charlie, but I'm getting there. Yes, I would sign the Mississippi law, and no, I would not permit taxpayer funding. There are 30,000 abortions in Pennsylvania each year. All people of goodwill have to be looking for ways to reduce that number. We must value life. I would be happy to join with Representative Rapp, not only in passing laws to limit the number of abortions, but in changing hearts and minds. We need a culture of life. We need to not only pass laws that protect and value life, but we need to have a discussion with the voters of Pennsylvania so that abortion is no longer an option. And that means we do have to take a whole approach. We do have to look at helping the mother. We do look at having to hold the father accountable, all of which has to be focused on reducing that number to zero. We need to pass not only good laws, we need to change hearts and minds, and I would be happy to be part of that leadership in that discussion.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Dave.
Good. I'm number 9 of 14 children. And my parents taught me life is a gift. But my wife and I, my wife Debbie and myself, have 4 children. And my third child, Brian, who will be 33 this Saturday, is profoundly disabled. He has a mentality of about a 5-year-old. Can't walk, can't talk. And when he was born, I questioned, why me? Why'd this happen? Well, 33 years later, I have to tell you, I believe Brian was a gift to Debbie and I and his brother and his 2 sisters. Brian has made us better people, better husbands and wives, and better family, without a doubt. I believe life starts at conception. And anyone that doubts that should just come visit Brian. He will brighten up your day as he has brightened up my day for the past 33 years. I would sign that bill. I will not only sign it, I will advocate that throughout this whole state.
John Ventry.
When I ran for Westmoreland County Commissioner, I said I would tax the abortion clinics out of the county, which would have been the only power I had as commissioner. Our Supreme Court, they're afraid to act because you have a Democrat president and Congress. I believe in the law of biogenesis, which means life comes from life. Remember when you were a kid, they say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken, because God created everything whole, and then the eggs came. So at the moment of conception, that's a human being, it's not a fetus. I will again follow Texas, not 15 weeks, 6 weeks at the heartbeat, which eliminates 75% of the abortions, or 20-something thousand of the 31,000. There are 60 million abortions in America. That number equals the number of illegal immigrants into the country. Without abortion, you don't need immigrants. We have Americans born.
Okay. We're now coming to the very end here. If I could ask, beginning with Jason, for a 1-minute summary and make your case.
1 minute.
I grew up a blue-collar kid from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, an old steel town, a time when people in the mills were failing, people were having a hard time finding food, and I can remember a time when my family, through our church, helped find people food. But places like Aliquippa and places like where we're at today, Newcastle, are worse off now than they were 50 years ago. This must stop. We cannot, as a Republican Party, nominate another career politician or a politician that's already failed us to take on the Democrats' career politician, Josh Shapiro. That would be foolish. I offer you something new, something novel, a political outsider from Western Pennsylvania that has a 12-point plan on how to turn this state around. With 0% income tax, unleashing our energy, repeal Act 77, school choice, and providing property tax relief to our seniors from the school tax that takes too many seniors, it takes our homes away. I ask you, support Jason Ritchie, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and we'll support our police. Thank you very much.
Charlie Giroux.
I'm running for governor because year after year, I've heard the same tired promises that you've heard and watched as we've gotten no results. We haven't seen an elimination of our property taxes. We haven't even seen a decrease in the mandates that have come down the road our way. And so I want to change fundamentally the way state government does business, not just the people, but the systems. And so I'm promoting a constitutional amendment that would get each and every one of us, we the people, the right to recall and remove from office any governor that thinks he or she is a king. I want to see us get term limits for our legislature. I want to see us have ballot initiatives for we the people, and I will be a governor that will listen. I've given out my personal cell number across this state. I'll give it to you again tonight. It's 717-877-8194. If Virginia did it last fall, we will do it here in Pennsylvania this fall. I'll lead the fight. I ask you to join me.
Dr. Zama.
This election is about the future of our children and the future of the world. Last summer in Perry County at a Vineyard event, a little girl I will call Sarah inspired me with a very compassionate plea. Dr. Zama, when you become governor, can you please fix the road near our house? The question we must ask is, how long must we continue to elect the same politicians and expect a different outcome? How long must we continue to accept anything less than excellence from every part of our state government? How long must we continue to embrace the vanity of small thinking and the lure of mediocrity? If you set low standards, expect poor outcomes. Now, let me tell you that out of our 6 or 7 counties, there are many Sarahs. And allow me to paraphrase the words of our famous, celebrated, iconic poet, Bob Dylan. How many times must a man turn his head and pretend like he just can't see? My people, now is the time for a new kind of leadership, a compassionate, critical thinker. Now is the time.
Melissa Hart.
Pennsylvania has a lot of problems. We know that our population isn't growing. We know that we're losing clout. We know that no one's coming here to start a new business. And those who've been here are struggling to keep it going. We need common sense in Pennsylvania. I have the background and understand the way state government works. I also understand how federal government works and how important it is that those two work to the benefit of the people of Pennsylvania. But the last 15 years that I've spent in the private sector working with small businesses, trying to get them through this pandemic, solve their problems, deal with the regulatory burden, deal with poor policy, has really fired me up to get there to Harrisburg, work with the legislature, and bring common sense back. That's what's going to help us grow, and that's what we need in government.
Bill McSwain.
Before you put me on the clock, would everybody please join me in thanking Jeff Lord and Lynn Ryan and the Lawrence County Republican Committee for putting on tonight's debate. I want to lead our state because public service is in my blood, and I want to fight for you. And I know how to fight. I'm a Marine, I'm a U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump, and I'm a conservative outsider. I am not a career politician. Pennsylvania is the cradle of liberty, and I think it is the key to our country's future, a future that is rooted in liberty. Liberty was literally born in Pennsylvania, and it's not going to die on my watch. I will get the government off of your back, which will allow you and your families to prosper and thrive. which I think is your God-given right. My friends, we are only one election away for putting Pennsylvania on a better path. A path where our streets are safe, our children are educated, and our economy is thriving. Let's embrace that future together. I'm Bill McSwain. I ask you for your support on May 17th. God bless you. God bless Pennsylvania.
Guy Sorochi.
So as we conclude, as I've done in other places, I'm motivated by my softball girls, now 12 years old. We must look at this election through their future. The two biggest challenges facing us are our economy and the challenges in education. We need to reopen and grow our economy using our assets here in Pennsylvania, like energy. We need to bring about school choice and put parents in charge so that they can speak their mind and move their kids where they need to be, so that schools are accountable. We need to restore our liberty so that we have the opportunity to control our destiny, not to be decided by government. If we focus on those issues, Josh Shapiro will be on the defensive and will win. If we focus on those issues, Josh Shapiro can't defend his record. He can't defend his record as Tom Wolf's attorney. He can't defend his values and his positions. He's wrong on crime. He's wrong on the economy. He's wrong on manufacturing. He's wrong on education. If we focus on those kitchen table issues that matter to voters, not only we will win, Pennsylvania will win, my softball girls will win. Let's do it.
Dave White.
Yeah, thank you for having me this evening, and I appreciate the time and the effort of you all staying here. Pennsylvania is in a crisis. We have a crisis of leadership in Harrisburg. Our budget has almost doubled in 10 years. It took us 220 years to get to that point, and in Harrisburg, they doubled it in 10 years. Our economy is faltering. Our population is shrinking. Our roads are a mess. Our gas taxes are the highest in the country. I am a results-oriented person. I'm a businessman. I've traveled this state, and I'm up to about the 40th county going across in the past 2 months. I've heard what the people across the state are saying. They don't want another attorney. They don't want another politician. They want somebody from outside the system. They want someone like a Glenn Youngkin. They want somebody, a business-oriented mind. That's what I'm going to bring to Harrisburg, a business-oriented mind, so we can change the mentality in Harrisburg, cut our taxes, get our economy rolling, and we will live free and have liberty in Pennsylvania again. Thank you very much for having us.
John Ventry.
I'm an original Tea Party patriot. I signed up in Bushy Run. The media, the Republican Party, they don't pay attention to us, but they're going to be in for a surprise because that's who's going to win this election. That's who the people want. There's a world of difference between a high-level executive like myself who spent 26 years with a top 40 international company. My management skills, accountability, results, it's on a different level. My creativity, I wrote the first book in America on COVID. Our way of life in America is under attack. But, you know, when they went after the Betsy Ross sneakers, I looked at the $1 bill. Top right, Betsy Ross flag. It says E pluribus unum, from many one. We're not teaching critical race theory and hateful CRT. We're going to teach creation science in school. Let the kids decide if that's true or evolution. Do a gut check. Who do you think is going to do what they say they're going to do? I'm an executive for an executive position. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the candidates. I don't think people on occasion have any idea of all the hard work you have to do what you're doing, and we are appreciative of your doing it. And then I'd like to thank the audience. Thank Lynn Ryan and thank the Lawrence County Republican Party, but thank all of you. This is how America works, and you showed up. Thanks.